I've been sharing my theories for a couple weeks now, and you guys have been so supportive over it. So I think it's finally time that we get to meet. Hi. I asked you guys to give me some theories or questions to react to for this video. So we're gonna go through that post and see what you guys said. So from Potato God 1987, it says, so I said this in your stream, and right when you started talking about it, it crashed. So here it is again. I think that M2 is trying to get the data driver so it can access the Mimic blueprints and make a Mimic body for F10 and 4. I think that's an interesting theory. I do think M2 is trying to build a body. We can see in the second ending all of the little minions, as I like to call them, running around. I do believe that M2 is who built those, not Edwin, so I think he is trying to build something. I just don't know exactly what. Now, Magnus WP for it says, what if Henry and William inherited the Fazbear brand? Because Fazbear Entertainment seems to be older than we think. I do agree with you. I think that they are, and by they I mean Steel Wool and Scott Cawthon, are going for Fazbear being far older than we originally thought. It seems like it's almost this elusive brand that never goes away, kind of like William Afton. It always comes back through the tragedies, through the messes. So I do think it is a lot older than we originally thought it was. I just don't know how old. Three Leaf Clover says, I have a lot of questions. Feel free to skip any of them. We're gonna rapid fire them. And by rapid fire, I mean I'm gonna go and think for a minute before I answer each of them. Favorite animatronic? Glamrock Freddy. Glamrock Freddy. Do you have any pets? Yes, I have a dog, 2 cats, 3 frogs, a lizard, and fish. Wildest FNaF theory? I believe M2 is Michael Afton. Do you like any other games or series? I play some other games. I play Disney Dreamlight Valley. I like Animal Crossing. I like Epic Mickey. I do like shooters, like Overwatch or Marvel Rivals. And I do play a little bit of The Sims. Thoughts on Midnight Motorist? I've stopped trying. I've thought about it a good bit. I think the best explanation I have found for it is John from FNaF's theory. His honestly makes the most sense to me. Favorite juice? The mini fridge of it. Welch's strawberry kiwi. Least favorite animatronic? I've gotta say, my least favorite, like one I'm most scared of, is Chica, by far. By far. She terrifies me. What do you think the one retcon was? There's definitely been more than one at this point. Agree, I think there's been like a million. I think that the one retcon was Dream Theory. I think that it originally was going towards Dream Theory. I mean, there were so many hints with the, what was it? The child misseeing things in the dark or whatever that was. I think it was really heading towards it being Dream Theory, and I think that by him considering doing something else, he's considering that one retcon when it retcons so much. So that's my thought. Was that actually the bite of 87? I dear hope so. But who knows, with Secret of the Mimic 2, whenever that releases, if it does, I'm sure more is gonna get retconned. Do you think the DCI happened? I do. I think it makes sense that William's almost batch testing. I don't think it's just the original 4. Or 5. I can't count. Brit Frights or Tales story? Into the Pit by far. I think it's one of the most endearing stories for me. I also just really, really like the game for it, so I find myself most attached to it. God David. I had to look this one up. I've been seeing this comment and I had no clue what God David was. But if I'm understanding correctly, it's just David is crying child is Gregory. And I'm gonna say no. I don't want it to be true. I think it's what they're going for, but I don't like it. Least favorite juice. A couple weeks ago, I ordered this juice. Oh my goodness, what was it? I'm gonna look it up. Zero sugar cranberry pineapple juice. It was not good. If you could ask Scott Cawthon one thing, what would it be? I would ask him, why do we need 3 separate continuities? Why not just reboot the series? Is Susie's dog Mangle? I don't think so. I don't think so. Do you believe molten MCI? Yes. 100% yes. I do believe that it makes sense. They all kind of were there. It makes sense they'd become like wire spaghetti, you know? What do you think the Candy Cadet stories are about? Lefty DCI supremacy. I think the Candy Cadet stories, and this might be a hot take, I think a lot of them mean nothing. I think a lot of the stories are red herrings and strings for us to pull on, because at the end of the day, Five Nights at Freddy's is a business, and it's in their best interest to give us random things to follow that lead nowhere. And I think that some of Candy Cadet stories are those. I don't think all of them, especially the one for Ruin. I do think it connects to the Secret of the Mimic somehow. I just don't fully know how yet. I have a couple theories on it out, but I think some of them are just, you pull on them, nothing. And finally, drumroll, pancakes or waffles? Waffles, but specifically frozen, Eggo blueberry. They have to be frozen. How about Joe 8? Ooh, this is a long one, so we're gonna skim through this one and kind of answer it in little sections. Echoing a theory I have heard online, but what if after the events The Secret of the Mimic, which as we know in the first 2 endings are able to get, Arnold fails to get the Mimic data? William and Henry are still gonna want that data. Agree. Having a high-tech animatronic that can fit into any costume sounds like such a prize that William now owns and feels entitled to. Agree. Arnold is one of the many Fazbear contractors who failed to get the data, so it's safe to assume he wouldn't be the last one they sent. Totally agree. Maybe the Moon.exe ending isn't canon to Arnold's story, but it shows us what happened with the next contractor. Maybe MCM didn't burn down, but perhaps the bad ending is the true ending, even if the true ending gives us more lore info. I personally believe that ending 3 is the canon one, especially whenever we think about what was leading us up to Secret of the Mimic, like especially the week before book. The fact that you have to finish that book before you can get the canon ending, I think is a huge indicator that it is possible. It is possible. Like, that you have to complete the game and go back in. I think it's kind of hinting at that. Plus the deja vu note, it feels so out of place for me. Granted, yes, things can burn down. He could not get the info. I also think that ending 3 is just, storytelling-wise, more endearing to me. Maybe I'm biased. We know that at some point this land does get used for things like William's house, possibly the sister location, and possibly one of the diner locations, Baby Circus World, FNaF 6, and the Pizzaplex. Correct. My understanding is that they basically just keep reusing the same land over and over and over and over again. I feel like each game we're just going a floor deeper now. But if either of the 2 bad endings happen, the Mimic is still up and roaming. I imagine he doesn't want to leave the factory, as Davis spends most of his time there, so either the good ending happens eventually with a different technician or William himself, or a new technician William wants him to succeed in destroying the physical Mimic and keeping the program and blueprints. So this is where I think that Sleepy Moon comes into play, because I believe Sleepy Moon is the Mimic that we end up meeting in Ruin. I don't believe it is M2. I think M2 can wander off, they can become David and go sleep in the bed, they can go do whatever, but as long as Sleepy Moon is in the basement, we can get to Ruin. I think it would be so interesting if William wanted to continue Edwin's work, but like with evil and selfish intent. We do kind of see that in the Silver Eyes trilogy, him doing that with Henry, so this could be a version of that. We know he's not above experimenting on his children. Perhaps none of his children's deaths were accidental, but planned from the start. Who put Cece in Fredbear's mouth? Michael. And who was established to be an obedient minion to his abusive father? Michael. The Bitey 83 was planned as a part of William's work with death, metal, possession, and mimicry. It was one of the first tests. I disagree here. Usually, and let me preface this by saying I used to study a lot of true crime. I wanted to be in criminal justice when I was younger. I find, and of course, this is fiction. This is fiction, so by no means. But I usually find that many psychopaths, sociopaths, they have an innate sense of self-preservation, and that does not mean that they're not going to abuse their kids. William Afton is abusive. Let's get that out of the way. But a lot of the times, they will want their lineage to succeed as well. I don't think that he purposefully put them in harm's way. A lot of times we'll see that these kind of people will actually have a soft spot for their children, weirdly, but they'll still abuse them, so it makes no sense. But yeah. We also know that he didn't want Elizabeth going near baby. I don't think he put Michael and his friends up to it. I think that, honestly, they're victims of abuse, and it sadly got them. Also, don't know why people get so heated about the idea of a character we've only seen in one 8-bit minigame to actually be a robot or something. The earliest FNaF books have humans who are secretly robots made by freaking Henry and William. Agreed. I think at this point in the franchise, it's just where it's going. Somebody's a robot. Somebody. At this point, somebody's a robot. And I think Scott wants to do sci-fi. He wants to do... What are sci-fi horror? Dead Space? Alien? I don't know. Those are both aliens. He's not doing aliens, but like Terminator. And so I think that that's kind of the route that we're going now. We know from his older games that he does like the sci-fi genre a lot. So I think that he's just now morphing FNaF into what he really wants to do. It's kind of like whenever you have an artist come out with their pop hits, and it's not really what they want to do, but it gets them popular, and then they switch, and now they're doing what they really want. So I think that's kind of what's happening here. Sorry, this went everywhere. It's 4 a.m. I'm just saying stuff in my brain hurts from FNaF. That's me every day, except I need to go to bed by like midnight or I freak out. Alright, now CDLoon_VA. Sorry this is a long one. Alright, hear me out. The white tiger we encounter in the underground tunnels is not the spirit of David, or any other character for that matter. For one, even though it speaks in David's voice, it repeats things that David doesn't say. For two, while it would make sense to think that David's spirit might take on the forms of his favorite plush, it doesn't make sense for David to act like the Mimic and copies other voices. Nor does it make sense for the Mimic programming to be capable of directly influencing a spirit that's not possessing it. I do agree with that. I have to go look and see. I haven't heard David's spirit. I haven't heard the white tiger plush doll saying those lines. But if that is true, completely agree. That does not make sense. The only lines I've actually heard in my playthrough with the white plush doll is, like, children laughing. That's all I hear. Due to the recycling process in the doll hospital, the agony imbued into M1 and M2 spread to Edwin's other creations and even taints the factory itself. I believe a more likely possibility is that White Tiger is actually the same kind of entity as Into the Pit Spring Bonnie. I do like that. I think that it being something like that, and it almost gives us a link between the books and the games, because I do feel like the books are in almost their own separate universe, and even in terms of technology. Like, we've got the Phasgoo illusion discs, all of this crap. So I would like that. I think it would ground us in more one single truth. We know that in the FNaF universe, tragedy can leave a supernatural mark. The missing children incident left a stain on the Fazbear establishment, and the memory of it led to the creation of Into the Pit Spring Bonnie. White Tiger is an agony-formed entity which embodies the Murray's family grief, pain, and loss, and by extension, Edwin's rage. In other words, it's a manifestation of the very thing driving M2's violence. I do like that theory. I think it's worth exploring more. I do think that the white tiger doll cannot be M2. It's not an animatronic, but it is. Is it David? Is it Fiona? What is it? Now by Coke Cut. Alright, so first, what is your favorite FNaF game? Not a joke. My favorite FNaF game is Into the Pit. Second, Will You Marry Me? A joke. Or is it? And for my theory, I believe the Stage 1 minigame from FNaF 3 shows the first costumes of Spring Bonnie and Fredbear, but the glitching purple bunny is Fiona trying to find M2, who might currently be Glitchtrap. I like that you're thinking about where is Fiona, where is M2 in all these past games. I haven't really thought about where Fiona is, so I like that quite a lot. I don't really know what role she plays. But that needs more research. Now by Raise Alexandria, Raise and Rare. Christina? I don't know. I'm sorry. Is FNaF World confirming there's only one Golden Freddy spirit due to the universe ending, where duplicate Golden Freddys delete each other due to a paradox or something? It could. It very well could. And I think it depends on where Secret of the Mimic is going, honestly. If God David is real, then Golden Freddy can't have two spirits. You can't. So this could be a way of rewriting that. It really depends on when Scott decided to take this direction that he's now going in. Was this laying the seeds for that? Alright, now, Well You're Not Wrong says, I really enjoyed your moon.exe video. Thank you. It's not quite a theory, but I think that the employee who was trapped underneath the factory did go crazy and died in the Sleepy Moon suit, but Edwin still possessed the suit after M2 kills him. Since moon.exe implies a connection between Moon and Edwin, and the lullabies feel like it's pointing towards a paternal figure. I like the way you're thinking, but when I did more research, I actually don't believe that Edwin's possessing the suit anymore. I do believe that it's actually M1 who ends up becoming the Ruin mimic that we know, but I do think that that still works with your theory though, because M1 is still that paternal figure, and it would make sense for them to have lullabies. And they could be mimicking the voice of the dying employee. Craig the Egg 1962 says, which animatronic would you possess? I don't think I would possess an animatronic. I think I would pull a David or Crying Child and possess a plushie. Actually, this is my psychic friend Fredbear, or my white tiger doll. He's a Webkins, named after Timothée Chalamet. I don't like Timothée Chalamet, but his name is Timmy. And he's who I'd possess. So imagine a 7-8 foot Google Webkins coming after you. And then Ben Wertenberger, 6730, says, so I had a thought the other day. If we think there's two mimic endos walking around, did Fazbear make more? Are there Glamrock's mimics? The original animatronics? It would explain Rocky and Chica's effed up personalities. I do think there's more. I don't know if Fazbear made them or who exactly made them, but I've seen evidence that the puppet... my cat. I've seen evidence that the puppet could be a mimic, possibly the originals. I don't know. I don't want to go into the whole everybody's a mimic, you're a mimic, you're a mimic, you're a mimic, you're a mimic, even though that's kind of how it feels right now. But I do think there are definitely more than two endos. Can I do my outro, buddy? No? Okay. Well, that was the last one, and this cat here will not let me record an outro. So I'm just gonna say thank you guys so much for being here, and I hope I can catch you in the next one. Thank you.